How to be blessed. Principle number 6. Increase of the Spirit. Since the beginning of this year, we have been learning the different principles to discover the blessings for this year. Let's take a moment to review them. Principle number 1. God wants to bless you. Principle number 2. Suffering and sorrow help us obtain the maturity to enjoy the blessing. Principle number 3. To be blessed, you must love Him enough to obey Him. Principle number 4. To be blessed, you must meditate on His Word. Principle number 5. We must have a singleness of mind. Today, we will discuss a principle that will block the blessings that God has for us. Principle number 6. We must stop doing what we know is wrong. There are so many of us that are plagued with the issue of doing what we know is wrong, but find that we are unable to fight the temptation. Even the Apostle Paul found that he was unable to do what he wanted to do, but did what he did not want to do. So much so was his grief that he cried out in Romans 7 verse 24, "Wretched man that I am, who will set me free from the body of this death?" Last week I felt led to visit a dear friend from our church who has a restored marriage. She wanted to share with me something important, and though I never have time for personal relationships, I heard myself telling her that maybe we could get together. Planning to make it a short visit, the Lord kept me there a long time, spending a few hours with her because the car that I was driving lost the power steering, even though we both agreed that the Lord would heal it and give us the wisdom or knowledge to know what was wrong. It wasn't until her husband came home from work that we discovered, or should I say the Lord revealed, the cause so I could leave and get it fixed. The Lord made the divine appointment for me, and He used the car issues to keep it for the length of time that He wanted me there. When I first arrived and she had me alone, she too, like Paul, cried to me that something was terribly wrong. She was not the gentle and quiet spirit that allowed God to restore her and her marriage. Instead, she did all that she hated. Her old self seemed to be back. When I had a moment alone, I asked the Lord the wisdom He wanted me to give her. Surprisingly, the moment I came into the room, even before I had a chance to say anything, she blurted out, "I wanted to talk to you about fasting." Well, that was the word from the Lord, fasting. There is nothing more powerful to the pulling down of strongholds, getting breakthroughs, and killing the flesh than fasting. This is not the only solution, but it is a big part of it, and often where He starts. First, I told her, as I'm telling you, that the Lord wants to show all of us that apart from Him, we can do nothing. John 15:5. The Lord likes to show us that He wants us to rely on Him and never attempt anything without Him. The Apostle Paul went on to say, when he cried out, when he did what he didn't want to do but still did, that the solution was to understand the difference between the spirit and the flesh. To fully understand, I hope you will take the time to read through these two verses, which I've added the parallels to Galatians 5 verse 17 and Romans 8 verse 5. The bottom line is, none of us can change ourselves. It is only as God works in us that we are transformed. In addition to letting God work in us, we work with Him by killing the flesh through fasting. Fasting is one way that a believer who wants to grow in God can kill the flesh and increase the things of the Spirit. Almost a year ago, I was seeking the Lord for the weight gain that I was experiencing. He reminded me, ever so gently, that I was not fasting regularly. I repented to Him, then to my husband, and later to Michelle in Alabama, who at the time was our Restoration Fellowship president. It was true that I had failed to fast regularly, as we encourage all of you to do. And once you get away from it, it is so easy to let it slide, sometimes for quite a while, as was my case. The fasting not only began my weight loss. This is another subject I may feel led to share with you at a later date, but it began my spiritual increase. When we starve or fail to feed the flesh, then it begins to lose strength, and at the same time our spirit gains the strength. As I encouraged my friend, she confided that she had tried to fast but was unable to continue because of a tremendous headache she experienced when she attempted a 3-day fast. But before I could comment, she told me that she was on her second week of a diet that eliminated sugar from her diet, as her husband had encouraged her to do, and how God was blessing her efforts as a result of her submission to her husband. The headaches were due, as she said, her sugar addiction or the stronghold. In the beginning of her diet, she had the headaches again, but now they were gone. Therefore, she would be ready to do a couple of day fasts, a couple days a week on a regular basis, as I encouraged her to do. In addition to fasting, I showed her in the Bible the verse in Isaiah 58 verse 6 that begins, "Is this not the fast that I choose?" I shared with her that recently the Lord had led me to choose which bond of wickedness I wanted to be loosened, which bands of the yoke that I wanted Him to undo, what oppression I wanted to be free from. This fast that I chose needed to break every enslaving yoke that had a hold of me. I confided in my friend that my choices for my fasts were fear, intimidation, condemnation, guilt, and shame, which at the time were running my life and playing on my emotions. Without knowing it, she blurted out that her problem was needing control and an obsession with perfection. All of our Restoration Fellowship members should seek God about fasting at least 2 days a week and should commit to doing it forever, even unto and especially after your restoration. Seek God for wisdom to know what you should choose to break during your fast. However, keep in mind that even when you're fasting, if when you are tempted and you simply give in to the temptation, then you are doing the very opposite of starving to kill the flesh. You instead are feeding your flesh. Feeding your flesh will greatly decrease you spiritually. It results in more and more temptations overcoming you until you are in a backslidden state. Each time you give in to a temptation, the flesh is strengthened because you fed it. Then when another temptation comes at you, your spiritual strength is often too weak and you fall into temptation again and again, which results in a weaker spirit and even stronger flesh. So to really kill the flesh, you need to fast until you are physically weak but strong spiritually. And when you're physically weak, you will find it's much easier to refuse to give in to the temptation. I heard Joyce Meyer say that she had such tremendous trouble with her mouth that she finally resorted to stuffing a towel in her mouth and running down the hall so that she didn't say something she shouldn't to Dave. So back in 2004, when I first wrote this series, I made a list of a few things that I saw too many of our members doing, which were not only inhibiting their restoration, but were also feeding their flesh so that they were missing His blessings. Number 1, arguing. Even though many of you have stopped arguing with your spouse, you continue arguing with others. Instead, remember that we are asked to live harmoniously and be agreeable. Number 2, stop asking questions. If you still ask your spouse, your e-partner, our ministry, or anyone else you can think of to help you find the answers, then you have not given God the job of giving you wisdom, nor allowing the Lord to lead you. If you turn to Him, He will continually guide you once you've stopped leaning to your own understanding and acknowledge that only He knows the path you should take along your restoration journey. Number 3, stop asking for things. The only one who can meet all your needs is God. He provided His Son to be with you. Trust me, you will never be satisfied with love or companionship that originates in a human being, and you will never enjoy the possessions you have be blessed with if they are not given directly to you from the Lord because you asked Him. He wants ongoing, moment by moment fellowship with you because He loves you and promises to bless you with everything you need. If you make Him first in your life and first in your heart, make a commitment to do it today. Number 4, pursuing. Too many of you have still never let go. I know it, your friends know it, and your spouse knows it too. Unfortunately, you still don't know it and continue to deny it. If you still eat, sleep, think, and talk about your spouse, what he or she is doing, feeling, etc., etc., you have simply not let them go. We see it in every form you fill out. Even if you have told your spouse they are free, you will never be free until you let go. Trust me and everyone who has ever experienced a restored marriage, there is such freedom in allowing the Lord to be all you need. It will give you the freedom from fear, intimidation, dread, and from the bondage of slavery of needing your spouse home. And this is the freedom that God needs in order to work in and complete your restoration. Make a new commitment this week to seek the Lord more fully while fasting, and make sure you let go and give your spouse to Him. If you don't know how to do it, simply ask the Lord to do it. Become totally and fully dependent on Him for everything. And if you have failed in your desire to fast, make a new start of it this week, beginning to seek God for wisdom for what's prevented it in the past. If you continue to fail, or you have trouble because of headaches or your health, talk to the Lord about it. Let Him make the way straighter and easier to lead you to gain victory over your flesh, so you begin being led by the Spirit. If you have a testimony or praise report you would like to share about this week's message, please take a moment to submit a praise report.